Good afternoon. So today's video is going to be a little bit of an update on the current state of things. First up on the list is our Project 76 Datsun 280Z, which these slides would get out of my face. I don't know if anybody actually knew about this one. I think we pointed it out in our first kind of introduction video. We've had this one for a while and it's just kind of been sitting on the back burner because it needs everything. It actually runs and drives and everything. I picked this up 10 or so years ago now, I want to say. Really long time ago. And I got it for 500 bucks. I know, right? It didn't run at the time, but all I really did was get the fuel tank cleaned out the fuel lines, tried cleaning the fuel injectors, but they're pretty much crap, so I had to buy brand new fuel injectors. But after that, it literally just turned right on, like nothing had ever happened. So yeah, I actually tried daily driving it to work for like a week, and that went about as well as you'd think it went. Left me stranded like 3 times. Turned out the fuel pump needs to be replaced. No, I replaced the fuel pump, but there were still, even though I got the tank cleaned and I cleaned out the lines as best as I could, there's still junk somewhere in the system, and it got into the pump somehow and it killed the new pump that I had just replaced. Luckily, I was able to get that warrantied out. So after those couple of times that it left me stranded, after the new pump, it ran pretty good. And then the radiator started leaking and it would start overheating a bit. So then I got a new aluminum radiator. I think that's the last thing I replaced. Oh no, the plug wires. It had a really bad misfire for the longest time, and I couldn't really tell what was wrong. I'd put new plugs in it, obviously, the oil change and all that. It still had this really weird misfire, under load. I finally just ended up changing the wires because I couldn't really think of anything else to do. I put a new distributor cap and rotor and everything. Those plug wires, I replaced them with the NGK 8mm ones, I think. That made it a whole brand new car. That was all the problems that it had just were completely resolved after that. And then I noticed that the rear diff was making a lot of noise. I started looking into it, and then I realized that there's quite a bit of play between the input and output shafts of the diff. So I think the diff is pretty much toasting this thing, and that's about when I stopped driving it. I think the goal for this now is to turn it into a drift car, because the body's kind of crap. I mean, it's got holes everywhere, some ventilation right there. The whole wheel arch is Swiss cheese. That's why I put the fender flares on there to cover that up. I mean, it could be saved, I guess, but I mean, you're talking about cutting out almost the whole body and trying to replace it with new panels. It's just a lot of work. I've been wanting to build a drift car pretty much since I sold my 240SX I don't know, 15 years ago now. And I didn't really want to buy a whole other chassis to make into a drift car, because I don't know, I would want something that I don't really care about. I was thinking of getting an E36 BMW or something and throwing a junkyard Chevy V8 in it or something. Yeah, that's a lot of effort I don't really want to go through, and it's not Nissan, so I just wasn't too excited about that. And then I started thinking about what plans we had for this, and it's just started making more sense to use this as a drift car because it's kind of beat anyway, so I wouldn't be that mad if I put it into the tire wall or something. I think what we're gonna do is try to find a DQ35 to throw in it. The only part about that's gonna suck is trying to find a CD09, because everybody and their mother is putting those into everything they can think of nowadays, which sucks for us. Well, we'll figure it out. Just have to look around and find one. Maybe try to rebuild one or something. I don't know if you guys know or not, but these don't have power steering. That would be a big issue for a drift car. So I actually had already thought of that. There's a rack from Subaru. All the 90s Subarus, like GC8 Imprezas and Foresters and stuff, the racks on those are really similar to the racks in these. And I picked one of those up a long time ago at the junkyard, and the splines and everything fit right up. The length is almost perfect. The mounting points are pretty much the same, just different shapes. But I think I researched it at the time, but you basically have to mill a certain amount off both ends of the rack. That makes it like exactly the same length as the Datsun rack, and then you just plumb your power steering pump from whatever engine you have into it, and you got power steering. So we're definitely gonna go that route. I guess just find a old used VQ35 and see how long that'll last us at the track. For the diff, also, I probably want to go with the Apex engineered 350Z diff conversion, because I really like their stuff. I've always wanted to run like something of theirs on our Datsun, so I think that's the way we're gonna go. That brings us to our next item on the list. Ta-da! Item number 2 on the list. The parts car that was supposed to be the thing that fixed that parts car. Yeah, so this wasn't supposed to be a whole project of its own, but seeing as how the value of these is kind of going through the roof, I kind of think it's a shame to chop this one up just to fix that piece of Swiss cheese over there.
Cheese versus cheese.
And especially because this one's relatively rust free. I mean, as far as Datsuns go anyway. The floorboards still have some rust, but the whole main chassis is pretty much rust free. It doesn't have any rust on the frame rails, on the quarter panels. The rear deck lid is totally solid. It's got some like surface rust and stuff, but not really anything too bad. The battery tray is probably like the worst area on this, but overall it's a much more solid base to start from than that thing over there. So the current plan, instead of using this to save that one and make that one the show car, because that would be just way too much work, we're gonna keep that one junky and make it into the drift car, and this is gonna be like the top of the line, best of everything, like the best that I could possibly do kind of show car. The current plan is to put an RB in it. I've been looking for an RB for a while because I wanted to do an NA. I wanted a 2-liter because the 2-liter has the shortest stroke and revs the highest out of the box. And along those lines, I wanted a Neo RB20 because all the Neo series has solid lifters, which help with revving higher. I was looking for one of those for a while, and they're not all that common. Not that they're really sought after. But then, like, as time went on, like more and more Skylions were getting imported, and pretty much every other RB started like going through the roof also. And then it became a point to where the NA RB20 was probably the only thing I could do just because it was the cheapest option now. I don't know, that was still gonna be kind of like a lot of headaches to deal with because that engine's really not supported as far as like aftermarket parts and stuff like that. So I don't know if like the intake manifolds for the 25 fit on it, or the cams, or anything else. So I started kind of second guessing that, and then I was thinking of doing a VQ also, but I have literally VQs and everything else, so I kind of don't want to do that again. I really miss the RB. That's what I had in my 240SX, and it's been my favorite engine so far. Like I said, the prices are just getting out of hand. I started kind of having to think outside the box, and by outside the box I mean inside my tool shed, because I happen to have a RB25 block just sitting there that I've been ignoring for like the past 5 years. That is item number 3 on the list. All right, so this is item number 3 on the list. I feel kind of dumb because this has literally been sitting in my like storage room for, I don't know, 6-7 years or something now. And I literally forgot that this was an option. So my buddy gave me this a long time ago because he kind of blew it up. He had overheated the engine and blew a head gasket or something.
At least things can't get any worse.
And he tried putting it back together himself, and in that process he somehow left a 10mm bolt inside somewhere, and it got like sucked into a cylinder, and the engine kind of chewed it up. And yeah, as you can see, cylinder number 5 doesn't look so great. So I had a good helping of a M6 by 1.0 10mm bolt. He actually gave me the head too. So this is the head that went to this block. The reason I didn't want to use this head is because, well, it's missing literally everything. But also he lost the cam caps that hold the cam in place. And that's pretty much a deal breaker. That makes any head just junk, because those are machined specifically to the head, and you can't really like swap those out. Not every head is going to be machined exactly the same. So if you were to like take cam caps from a different head and try to put them on there, it would most likely start like chewing something up. So that really wasn't worth dealing with. And so I started looking for a new head and just didn't really have any luck. I was like, at the time I was looking for an RB26 head, and there just really wasn't nothing that wasn't like an astronomical price anyway. But even looking for like 25 heads, there just really wasn't that many people selling just cylinder heads. So I kind of just left it in the storage room and basically forgot about it. Up until about a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my buddy and telling him how I wanted to do an RB25 or 26 or something in the Datsun. Yeah, I just kind of remembered like, hey, I still have that block. And I happened to look on eBay and see if anybody's selling a block right now, or a cylinder head. And lo and behold, complete RB25 Neo cylinder head for 700 bucks. So this was kind of a pain in the ass to get. The guy had it listed for 700 or best offer. I offered him 500. He countered with 550. I was like, fine, that's still a decent deal, you know. Paid the dude, waited like a week. It got here, and it looked like that one, like nothing in it. And I messaged the guy, and I'm like, did you lose the other box, or like what's going on here? He's like, no, it was just for the cylinder head. Even though he posted a picture of a complete cylinder head in the ad. Yeah, whatever. I didn't want to wait like months for PayPal or eBay to deal with it, because the main issue is that he kept the lifters and the cam caps. Again, makes it just a paperweight. So if I were to start a conflict with him, most likely he wouldn't send me anything after that. So I'm kind of in a tough position to where I need the specific lifters and cam caps for this head. Otherwise it's worthless. It's basically no better than that one. So I just decided to bite the bullet and ask him how much he wants for the rest of it. And luckily he just said he wanted the other 150 bucks, basically the asking price that he posted, which just drives me insane. Like, why would you even put for best offer if you're not gonna take that offer, right? Like, whatever. He needed the money. Whatever, I'm happy to oblige. But I have a complete head now, and unfortunately it was still missing a few things, but we're still in a far better spot than we were with that other head. So we're missing valve covers, and more importantly, we're missing the bolts that hold this thing on. This is just a random bolt I had laying around, but apparently the bolts that go here are really special because it's an Allen head bolt that has a hole drilled straight through it. And I tried to look for something at the hardware store, a few hardware stores, and they didn't have anything that's the thread pitch of this cam. And also I needed something that would fit the threads to this, because this is like a cap that covers the hole, because apparently the oil flows through the cam and fills this space up, and that's how the VTC works apparently. I couldn't find anything, so I was kind of getting discouraged again. But I happened to look online and see if like any sort of company like carried those kind of parts, and just so happens there's some company called Terra Firma or something that like specializes in like bolts and stuff for like Japanese engines, and they had one of those bolts in stock. So I ordered that. I'm like, this has got to be a fluke. Like, there's no way they actually just have one of these. But sure enough, like, they sent me tracking. It's like on the way. So hopefully that gets here, because it's probably the only one in the US. The next thing was the cap that goes here. I couldn't even find anything that was big enough to fill that space. Like anything I did find that was big enough was just like much too coarse of a thread to fit in here. I tried like pipe threads and stuff like that, and that didn't seem to work, and I didn't really want to risk it, because if I screw that up, then I need to buy a whole nother gear, and these are like 500 bucks new. So I decided to post on the Skyline Parts Facebook group. Like within 5 minutes, some dude sent me a link to Amayama, which is like a Japanese like importer website, and they specialize in like dealer parts. And it seems like they'll buy them for you in Japan and then send them to you, which is amazing. Like I wish I knew about that website sooner, but I looked it up on their website, and it says they had like more than 20 of them. So again, skeptical, but I was like, for $6, just take my money, fine, just send me something. So that went through and everything, and we're waiting on that to get here. Next thing I gotta find is just some valve covers, and then I gotta decide what to really do with this. I'm not entirely sure if we can use this block with this head, because this is the Neo head, so the combustion chambers are a little smaller. And apparently with these pistons, if you put this together, you'll be looking at around 11:1 compression, which doesn't sound that bad to me, but supposedly the valves might run into the pistons because there's no reliefs cut into the pistons for the valves. I couldn't find any solid information on that, so I think what I want to do is just try and like mock it up together and get the timing belt and all that stuff, and try to spin it and see if I can feel some kind of contact happening. If it just runs like this, I'm happy just running it like this, just for the meantime, to get to, you know, get everything worked out. But if not, I'm kind of thinking of sending it, like just tearing it down and sending it to a machine shop and having it done just professionally, start to finish, like having the block machined and everything for all the forged internal goodies and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm still kind of on the fence about that. But this is what's gonna go in the blue Datsun, and hopefully in the end we'll have something with a ridiculously high rev limit, like 10,000 or so. Yeah, don't quote me on that, but that's kind of where I want to go with this. I don't really have a power goal. I just want it to rev really stupid high. Like that's all I want out of it. But we'll see how to get there. So yeah, that's pretty much it for item number 3 on the list. Items number 4, 5, and 6 probably can't really get to in this video. There's not really much else to talk about. This thing just needs some paint. I snapped off the stereo the other day. I fixed that. It's not really anything worth sharing. I replaced a mirror. This thing just needs to get painted eventually. The 350Z's just been to a couple of events promoting my buddy's company, our sponsor for our apparel and stuff like that. The Patrol, I'm working on trying to figure out what kind of parts I need to get for building a lower control arm, and that's pretty much all we're waiting on. As far as this one goes, yeah, if you guys have any suggestions on like parts or any contacts you guys have in Japan to get me all the stuff missing from this, that'd be great. But yeah, stay tuned and join us next time. See you guys.